In the year 2022, humanity faces a devastating food crisis. The world is engulfed in chaos, with hunger and despair dominating people's lives. Irresponsible human actions have pushed the planet to a critical state, with climate change deteriorating living conditions everywhere. Air pollution has wiped out much of the wildlife, leaving people without the natural resources necessary for survival. Fresh food has become extremely rare, and society now relies on processed products supplied by the giant company Soylent. Their new product, Soylent Green, is made from marine plankton and promises to feed everyone, but its production is currently very limited. Detective Frank Thorne of the New York Police Department lives with his elderly friend, Solomon Sol Roth, a former police analyst with an exceptional memory who acts as a living archive to assist Thorne in his investigations. Sol also keeps a library of police references to support his friend's work. While the two share some synthetic cheese, a power outage occurs, and Sol curses the situation, reminiscing about the days when such things didn't happen. He then climbs onto a bike designed to generate electricity, as food has become the top priority and fuel is now secondary, turning the streets into graveyards of cars used for sleeping or making illegal deals. In one of those cars, a young man named Hilbert receives a meat hook from a crime representative, along with instructions for an imminent operation that night. Meanwhile, in the luxurious apartment of William Simonson, his girlfriend Shirley plays a video game he had bought for her. Their moment is interrupted by Fielding, the building's bodyguard, who informs her that the car is ready and she must leave. Fielding takes Shirley away, leaving William alone for a few hours. She heads to a store where the vendor offers her luxury products, including an expensive steak that most people can't afford. During this time, Hilbert uses the hook to break into the high-end residential complex and makes his way to William's apartment. When Hilbert appears, the wealthy man remains calm and makes no attempt to flee or call security. Hilbert apologizes and explains that those who sent him no longer trust that William can keep the secret. Without resistance, William acknowledges the reasoning, stating that what Hilbert is about to do isn't necessary, adding that the truth is too terrifying and that he doesn't think he can bear it. Hilbert then raises the hook and strikes the old man on the head. Later, Thorne arrives at the crime scene to investigate the murder. He questions the bodyguard, who tells him that the cameras were down, and takes him to the apartment where Shirley appears distraught. Thorne carefully examines the body, searching for clues. However, he dismisses the grief and indulges in the food he finds in the apartment, even drinking a bottle of expensive whiskey. It becomes clear that having a police badge comes with certain privileges. Fielding informs him that he was with Shirley at the store during the attack, but Thorne seems more interested in enjoying the luxury amenities in the apartment. He fills a bag with clothes, food, and the steak that Shirley had ordered for William's birthday. Before leaving, Thorne asks to see Shirley and closely examines her body and hands, appearing unconvinced of her innocence. She explains that she wouldn't risk her job since she belongs to this apartment just like the furniture. She will wait for the next tenant to see if they want to keep her. At that moment, the forensics team arrives to take the body. Thorne's friend Wagner enjoys these situations as it gives him a glimpse into the lives of the wealthy. Shirley feels sorrow when she hears that William's body will be taken out of the city to a waste disposal facility. Thorne leaves the apartment minutes later, carrying his bag full of items and all the food he could gather. After all, the old man was already dead, and Thorne would make better use of all those items. Wagner drove the garbage truck and gave Thorne a ride to his apartment, where Thorne presented his friend Sol with gifts. These were things Sol hadn't seen in a long time: clean paper, soap, and pencils. But Thorne didn't just steal the pencils and soap. He also brought several large books about the Soylent Company and, the best of all, whiskey and meat, which brought Sol to tears when he tasted them. The next day, Thorne went to work, where his boss, Lieutenant Hatcher, was visibly frustrated that the case remained unsolved. But Thorne was convinced it had been a premeditated murder, as the killer hadn't stolen anything from the apartment. The security alarm malfunctioned for the first time in 2 years, and William had been strangely alone. Thorne sensed something bigger was at play and was determined to uncover the truth. At the same time, interest in Soylent Green continued to grow. The food product, made from algae, promised to eliminate malnutrition. The first thing Thorne did in his investigation was to track down Fielding, leading him to the apartment of Fielding's girlfriend, Martha. During his search, Thorne noticed a spoon with traces of strawberry jam, an extreme luxury that Fielding's girlfriend shouldn't have been able to afford. When Thorne returned home, he sat down to dinner with Sewell, who had prepared the meal with great care. Sewell revealed to Thorne that what he was about to experience was something unique. After the best dinner of his life, Sewell shared what he had discovered in the books Thorne brought. It turned out that William and his partner, a man named Santini, were behind the Soylent project that made them wealthy. The problem was that Santini was now the city's governor, and William had become food for the earth. Armed with this new information, Thorne set out to find a phone to inform Hatcher. However, he was surprised to learn that Hatcher was in a meeting with the person who had hired Hilbert to kill William. Meanwhile, a party was taking place in William's apartment, organized by Shirley. Thorne arrived demanding answers, but Shirley had none to offer him. In this world, she was simply part of the apartment's furniture, and the owners didn't trust her. However, she did notice that William had become increasingly paranoid in his last days, even beginning to visit the church regularly. Shirley invited Thorne to spend the night with her, offering the rare luxury of a real bath and a good breakfast. She hated being alone and was happy with a man who actually liked her, especially since Thorne was the only one who never asked her opinion. Thorne accepted the invitation, and they enjoyed a bath together, a rare privilege for most people. Later, Thorne visited the church William had attended. At the entrance, he found a dead woman with a child tied to her wrist. He realized the mother could no longer care for her daughter, so he took the child inside the church. The place was crowded with homeless people, and when he finally found the priest who had heard William's confession, Thorne tried to speak with him. But the priest, overwhelmed by the sheer number of people and the hunger around him, could barely remember William's confession. Under pressure from Thorne, the priest admitted that the truth was eating him alive, but he was bound by his religious duty and couldn't reveal what he knew. Thorne returned to Lieutenant Hatcher, who informed him that the Simonson case had been closed, labeled as a simple robbery. Hatcher asked Thorne to rewrite his report, but Thorne refused, sensing that everything about the case was highly suspicious. As a result, Hatcher assigned him to street patrol duty. That same day, Governor Santini learned about the relentless detective who refused to close the case. Upon hearing that Thorne had visited the priest, Santini issued an order to have him eliminated, assigning Fielding the task of killing the priest. At this time, Thorne was patrolling near a Soylent distribution center where a massive crowd had gathered. However, the people were soon disappointed when the product ran out. The police attempted to control the unrest, but the situation quickly escalated into a riot. Suddenly, large trucks appeared and began scooping up people using enormous shovels. The massive trucks began scooping people off the streets and dumping them into large storage containers as if they were garbage. Amidst this chaos, Hilbert approached Thorne and attempted to kill him with a gun, but missed, accidentally hitting an innocent woman instead. With each shot Hilbert fired, more innocent people were killed, prompting Thorne to chase him through the crowds. Eventually, Thorne caught up with Hilbert, but Hilbert shot Thorne in the leg before being crushed under one of the giant trucks. Thorne lost his chance to interrogate him, but noticed that Hilbert was wearing a uniform similar to Fielding's. Thorne then paid an unfriendly visit to Fielding, and a confrontation ensued. Thorne accused Fielding of being a puppet of the Soylent Company. Fielding admitted that he did what he had to in order to survive. In the end, Thorne left but threatened to kill him if he continued to pursue him. Afterward, Thorne went to see Shirley. At this time, Sewell had delivered a Soylent uniform to a group of scientists who called themselves the Research Bureau. These scientists were as intelligent as Sewell and were helping him uncover the truth. That same day, the scientists revealed their findings to Sewell, and the results were horrifying. William, as a member of the Soylent Board of Directors, had learned the full truth, and his mind couldn't handle it. The company realized he was no longer trustworthy and ordered his death to protect their darkest secret. The shocking truth was too much for Sewell to bear, and he decided to leave this world. That night, Sewell returned to his apartment and left a note for Thorne, who read it and realized that his friend was planning to end his life. Thorne rushed to stop him. By this time, Sewell was preparing for his final journey, choosing the music, colors, and even the scents he would experience as he transitioned to the next world. The elderly man was taken to a room where he was stripped of his clothes and helped to relax. As he watched a film showcasing the lost wonders of the old world, a chemical was slowly introduced into the room. Thorne arrived at the center and demanded to see Sool, but the doors were locked and he couldn't get in. All Thorne could do was watch his friend's final moments through a small window, witnessing the beauty of the long-lost nature. In those last moments, Sool felt comforted, knowing he could say goodbye to his friend before dying. Sool then revealed his shocking discovery to Thorne. Thorne, deeply moved by Sool's final words, promised to uncover the truth. After waiting until the very end, he followed the body as it was transported on a stretcher and managed to sneak into the lower levels, where the bodies were being loaded onto large trucks. Thorne hid inside one of the trucks, which took him to the human corpse processing plant. There he witnessed the horrifying process of how the body bags were unloaded and brought into the factory. Inside the factory, Thorne observed a conveyor belt carrying the bodies to a lower level. After watching the process, the shocking truth hit him. Soylent Green was made from processed human corpses. At that moment, guards spotted Thorne, forcing him to flee. Thorne made it back to the city, trying to contact the police station, but the line was busy. Desperate, he called Shirley's apartment, thanking her for the good moments they shared and warning her to stay away from Soylent Green. When he finally reached Hatcher, it was already too late. Fielding was close by and began shooting. Thorne fired back and managed to escape, running toward the church. While fleeing, Thorne was wounded and had to hide among the poor who gathered at the church seeking food. A fierce chase ensued between Thorne and Fielding, with the crowds becoming witnesses to the confrontation. In the end, Thorne was able to overpower and kill his adversary. Hatcher arrived just in time, and Thorne revealed the horrifying truth to him, pleading for him to inform the authorities that Soylent Green wasn't made from algae but from processed human corpses. People were unknowingly consuming the bodies of the elderly, who had willingly sacrificed themselves because they no longer wished to live in such a broken society. As Thorne was carried away on a stretcher to the ambulance, he kept shouting that Soylent Green was made of people. However, disturbingly, the crowds around him seemed more interested in finding out where they could get more Soylent Green. In the end, it appeared that even knowing the truth wouldn't change the bleak reality. The lack of options had made society more brutal, and the rule of the strong survive, the weak perish, had taken hold. And so this harrowing story comes to its tragic conclusion.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.